At the start of the story, our main character unexpectedly confronts the guy of her dreams, Kylo Grey. But then, out of nowhere, she slaps him across the face, 3 times, no less. The narrative shifts to a flashback where she talks about her plans after ending up in a novel with her ultimate crush. She had all these cute daydreams about keeping him close in her room and feeding him all sorts of yummy food while they cuddled. But at this moment, she can't help but question why she's slapping him at all. Then Kylo grabs her hand, which makes her turn beet red, but she yells at him to get his filthy hands off her. Deep down, she feels terrible for saying such awful things. She feels like she's just stepped straight into her favorite novel and is totally confused about what's happening. Thinking it's all a crazy nightmare, she faints right into Kylo's arms, and he just casually says she's no different from a Hulk. Then there's Princess Agnes Saint, the character she's turned into. Everyone knows her as the stunning goddess and the Imperial time bomb, but to Kylo, she's just a silly princess who got wasted and made a scene at the war-ending party. The guards show up, and Kylo lets them take her to the palace. On the way, he can't help but think how the Imperial family really neglects her, and even though he feels he has no right to complain about his own issues, it all just feels so unfair. She woke in a panic and jumped up but froze as one part of her sensed danger while the other melted from her lover's touch. This had to be a dream because everything felt way too real and over the top. She couldn't believe she just slapped her crush right after coming back to life. Her thoughts drifted back to her past life. She had a serious car crash and then messed up in the afterlife. A nervous goddess showed up and apologized, saying she wasn't supposed to die yet. She felt crushed thinking about the merch she ordered and the fanfics she never got to read. But then the goddess offered her a chance to live again in the world she loved the most. She jumped at it, excited to see her bias right away. She didn't get the fresh start she hoped for. Instead, she woke up in the body of Empress Agnes Saint, the ultimate villain. Talk about bad luck. She was stuck in the shoes of the character from The Infinite Splash, a novel she loved, which follows the male lead, Raymond Spencer, as he fights demons. The book was such a hit that it blew up on social media, but Agnes didn't do herself any favors. She was basically a crazy fan who couldn't get over Raymond. At a war banquet, she made a scene, shouting that only Lord Spencer counted and everyone else was just a waste of cash. When she got drunk and started trash-talking the Black Knights, Kylo had to step in. He used to be a mercenary, and now he's the commander of the Black Knights, always butting heads with Raymond. Agnes thought he was a nobody and questioned his authority. Kylo just stayed quiet, but he couldn't stand Raymond. Their rivalry was pure fireworks, with insults flying back and forth. They were the worst duo in the public's eyes, the stuck-up princess and the hot-tempered knight, both fueled by their real hatred for each other. Meanwhile, our protagonist was stuck cursing her luck because out of all the people, she became Agnes. It felt like a cruel joke, especially since she was a Kylo fan trapped in the body of the one person he couldn't stand. On the second day her body finally moves how she wants, but yesterday still feels like a bad dream. When the maids ask about her headache, she recalls what the goddess told her. This isn't just possession. After reincarceration, her life jumped to the start of the novel, and now she remembers everything from Saint Agnes's past. The memories are painful and messy, but she's not someone who gives up. She asks where Kylo is and makes up her mind to get closer to him. The maid trembles and asks what she plans to do. She says she just wants to stop him from cutting his hands. It sounds bad and the maid gets the wrong idea, but all she really wants is to see him. Inside she feels like a kid about to meet her crush. She wonders why everyone is overreacting just because Kylo stopped her while she was drunk. Later it becomes clear that Kylo belongs to the Black Knights. In the Empire, there are 4 Knight Orders. The White Knights are the most elite with both skill and status. The Blue Knights focus on skill and accept only top swordsmen. The Red Knights consist of powerful mages. The Black Knights are a group of skilled but dangerous troublemakers who often turn on others and lead attacks on the front lines. They are known for crimes like embezzlement, assault, blackmail, and disturbing the peace. Because of their reputation, Kylo lived as a loner facing constant discrimination. The protagonist saw her own loneliness in him and fell hopelessly in love, doing everything to catch his attention. On the first day of the novel, a major event occurred. Emperor Alexander Saint said they had won the war, yet demons now poured from homes. Demonic beasts attacked as rifts appeared. Even the high priest had no solution. The temple revealed that the only way to stop the rifts was to reach the source on a snowy mountain called the World's End. few had the skill to face it. The Empire's two strongest were Raymond Spencer, a brilliant strategist, and Kylo Grey, who lacked tactics but excelled in combat. One of them had to sacrifice their life. Kylo stepped forward. The protagonist wondered why her favorite character volunteered. Kylo despised Raymond. After the war, people called Raymond the Empire's only hero. No matter how hard Kylo fought, he was always overlooked and knew he could never surpass him. One day, he left for the world's end and left a letter saying a hero should not die. By sacrificing himself, he brought peace. In death, Kylo became a hero. For the first time, the man once called the devil was seen in a good light. But his story did not end there. When the author posted Kylo's portrait online, the protagonist and many fans lost their minds. Kylo became a fan favorite. The protagonist even held a birthday cafe event for him. But it felt meaningless now that he was gone. Even now, she cries for him in the body of the Saintess. Now she has to face him not as a fan but as Princess Agnes. She walks to the Black Knight's office with her heart pounding since she's about to meet the man she once adored. The door opens and Kylo is on his knees, eyes blazing, tied up like a prisoner. Her heart sinks. The Chamberlain thought she came to punish him and had him restrained. The sight horrifies her. She orders them to release him. The knights hesitate but obey. Rage, guilt, and love overwhelm her. She cries out and the knights undo the ropes. She tells them to leave. Her voice is soft but firm. She is done being the villain and wants to make things right. Alone, Kylo stays on the floor staring with hate. He calmly places his wrists on the table and tells her to cut them off if that is the price for touching royalty. The words hit her. He sounds ready for punishment, as if he deserves it. This broken man was once the hero she admired. She says she could never hurt him. Kylo frowns, not believing her. He asks if she wants more than his wrists, maybe his life. He wonders if giving up his pride would satisfy her. Her face reddens as she starts to wonder about Kylo stripped half naked. The guy stood there, confused about what was wrong. He said he meant whether he should leave the knight's order. Her heart raced as she replied she understood, though inside she panicked. Of course, that was what he meant. How could she think otherwise? It was bad enough being a bully. Now he might see her as a pervert too. Unable to hold her composure, she suggested they forget about yesterday. Kylo reassured her, but she was too flustered to meet his eyes. She agreed and asked him to forget everything, then left. There was more she wanted to say, but this was enough. If the woman who slapped him yesterday suddenly flirted, he would think she was crazy. Kylo was sensitive. She needed to approach him slowly and carefully. For now, she would stay hidden and wait for the right time to win his heart. Kylo let out a heavy sigh. The image of her blushing face stayed with him. He thought she would execute him or banish him from the Night Order, but she only asked for peace. To him, she was strange and unpredictable. A few days later, after visiting Kylo, the protagonist stayed in the palace pretending to be sick. She thought over the original story and believed she had found the best way to approach Kylo. The shameful comments she made at the banquet would ruin her reputation. As the Imperial Princess, she had insulted the families of those who risked their lives. No matter how she approached Kylo, it would only harm him. She wondered if any excuse could justify her actions with the next plot point near. Someone called from outside to say her father was summoning her. She sighed, knowing the time had come to be removed from the palace. The Saint Imperial family ruled the Empire with magical weapons strong enough to defeat demons, which gave them power and peace over the continent. This was during Alexander Saint's reign. Standing before him, she greeted her father. He thought how hard this must be for her but was tired of fixing the family's mistakes. He felt helpless. His youngest daughter looked so much like his late wife it made his heart ache. Even if he tried to discipline her, she was too old and too far gone. Her father decided Agnes should stay outside the capital until she restored her reputation. While readers liked this, it was a problem for the protagonist. Leaving the capital meant not seeing Kylo, and she would not allow that. She refused to obey, secretly enjoying challenging her father. The Emperor was shocked and warned he would make another decision if she kept disobeying. She said she was fine with anything as long as she stayed in the capital. Inside, she was ready to live in the maid's quarters, give up her dresses and jewelry, and do anything for Kylo. Her father chose to appoint her as a mage for the Black Knights. She was surprised at first but quickly accepted. Like most of the Imperial family, Agnes had great magical power and usually would serve in the White Knights, like her brother Crown Prince Damien. She had never gone on a mission, finding them troublesome. Though she belonged to the White Knights, she wondered why her father sent her to Kylo. She asked for the transfer at once, thinking it was perfect. Her father, shocked again, called physicians to check her, while she rejoiced at the chance to see Kylo every day. At the Empire's Crystal Hall, daily celebrations were underway to mark the victory. Among nobles, Princess Agnes's assignment to the Black Knights was a hot topic. Some said the Emperor had gone too far. Others argued that Agnes deserved the humiliation. Most felt some form of relief. Many were eager to see her shamed further. Sirius Melville, a knight of the White Order, disliked the constant gossip. Hugo Rodden, who loved the Saint Agnes had once scorned, was far less sympathetic. Sirius eventually left the banquet hall. Hugo saw it and smirked. Diana, vice captain of the Knights Templar and a close friend of the Crown Prince, approached Hazel Devon, the original heroine of the novel. Diana asked about Sirius's sudden departure. Joshua explained that Sirius had left because he did not want to hear the nobles slander the princess. Diana grumbled about Sirius's softness. Despite his womanizing reputation, he always had a hard time watching women suffer. Liliana, known as the star of the Empire and beloved by the people, entered the room. Her presence lit the space. Hugo said they were discussing Princess Agnes. She replied that she had heard about it, and never expected His Majesty to decide that way. This led to Liliana's introduction. Liliana was born a commoner but became a saintess overnight after a divine revelation. As a beautiful woman without power, she faced scorn, mockery, and harassment. After curing several demonized nobles, she gained admiration and fame. With time, she began to desire more and set her sights on Hugo, heir to the Rodion Kingdom and respected in the Knights Order. The protagonist still felt she could surpass Liliana. Hugo was completely taken with Liliana. He said things had worked out since no one would trouble her now. Liliana answered that it did not matter. Though Agnes disliked her, she accepted it as a commoner. The other men followed Hugo's lead, and the protagonist thought she should thank the princess for giving Liliana extra sympathy. She knew men were simple. Though uninterested in them, she found only two men worthy, the Crown Prince and Lord Spencer, who arrived at that moment. He had long been frustrated by Agnes's affection. Liliana greeted him warmly and mentioned Agnes's assignment to the Black Knights. She skillfully raised her image by lowering others, a tactic Diana noticed, especially around Hazel and Raymond. Diana frowned, seeing through the saint's serene smile. Hugo, unaware, praised Liliana, who thanked him. Hazel, silent, caught Liliana's subtle sneer, reflecting the knight's complex social dynamics. Meanwhile, Agnes prepared to meet Kylo and the Black Knights. She was determined to protect Kylo, redeem herself, and prove her worth despite the noble's scorn. Days passed as Agnes settled into her role as a mage. That day, her maid Daisy, daughter of the Duke of Lothian, ranted about the Emperor's decision. She criticized Kylo and worried about Agnes being summoned for discipline. Agnes understood the Emperor wanted to restore her reputation. Kylo was ordered to treat her as any other mage. Though she wore a mage's uniform, rumors spread that Kylo might treat her harshly. Daisy's words made Agnes blush at the thought of working closely with Kylo, whom she adored. Daisy offered to call a doctor, but Agnes declined. She needed time to think. She already had a plan. Using her knowledge of the novel, she would help Kylo defeat the demons and give him full credit as the Empire's hero. Suddenly, Prince Damien visited. Startled, Agnes rose from the sofa. His unannounced visit broke court etiquette, showing his usual disregard for her. He entered alone, leading his escort outside. Outwardly gentle, Damien hid a cold, calculating nature only Agnes saw. His visit came at the Emperor's request. Alexander was worried about Agnes's strange behavior and her easy acceptance of the Black Knight's appointment. Although the palace doctor found nothing wrong, her change still seemed suspicious. Damien came to investigate. Seeing Agnes alone without her maids made him more suspicious. Agnes asked why he came without notice. Damien scolded her for not greeting him and warned her not to trouble their father. He told her to behave and secure a good marriage. His old-fashioned views surprised Agnes. He reminded her not to shame the royal family and said that while their father still protected her, he would not. From now on, she must serve as a mage in the Black Knights. Agnes stayed calm, which confused him more. After searching her room and finding nothing, Damien left still unsettled. Left alone, Agnes thought about her rigid brother. She remembered how different her life was before when she had no siblings. Controlling her irritation, she focused on meeting Kylo the next day. The next morning, Agnes woke early and put on the Black Knight's uniform. Made of fine fabric and infused with magic, it was both elegant and practical. Its black and gold design gave her a strong appearance. Though she could have worn the White Knight's uniform, she chose black. Her transformation complete, she braided her hair and admired herself. Her maids watched, unsure and anxious. Chloe was asked for her opinion but hesitated. Agnes told her there was no need to answer since she looked good in anything. Relieved, Chloe asked if she was truly fine. Agnes confidently said she could not act freely forever and would now follow His Majesty and uphold the imperial family's dignity. Chloe and Emma exchanged confused looks. Before leaving, Agnes told them to go out. Surprised by her change, they asked her to take care of herself. She left the palace and headed straight to the Black Knight's leader's office. Inside, Kylo spoke with Jeremy, who doubted Agnes would show up. Kylo recalled his meeting with the Emperor days earlier. The Emperor spoke with regret and affection. He explained that Agnes lost her mother young and grew up lonely. People called her selfish and said she neglected her healing duties, but her heart was fragile. Her mother's death had left her fearful, especially when seeing patients with similar symptoms. The Emperor's stoic face softened as he revealed his sorrow. After losing her nanny too, Agnes fell into despair. He admitted he had been too lenient but now had no choice. Reaching her heart was harder than ruling the empire. Kylo couldn't help but notice the Emperor's intent. The ruler of a vast empire had summoned Kylo, an illegitimate child, to express his concerns about raising his daughter. However, the Emperor's next words surprised Kylo. He remarked that the child couldn't live in such a sheltered world forever, and questioned whether she should have experienced the bitter and spicy taste of life since ancient times. Kylo raised his head and looked puzzled as the Emperor continued. He said he had heard of Kylo's many accomplishments on the front lines during the war, and claimed that if Kylo had fought demons he would capture Princess Agnes with his eyes closed. By praising an illegitimate child with commoner blood, the Emperor showed his intentions clearly. Kylo asked if he should treat Princess Agnes as his minor subordinate according to the Emperor's command. The Emperor confirmed this and said it would be even better if it was someone Kylo disliked. Kylo realized the Emperor wanted him to break the princess's spirit completely. He admitted he did not expect her to come. A servant soon knocked on the door and announced Princess Agnes's visit, which left Kylo shocked. Agnes entered with her heart pounding. Kylo Grey greeted her with sarcasm and expressed disbelief that she had come. Glaring at her, he said he had been ordered not to give her special treatment, especially when she wore the Black Knight's uniform. He asked if she had really come even after knowing that. Though nervous, Agnes stayed composed and confidently said she believed Kylo would overlook her past selfish intentions and guide her fairly like any other member of the Knights. Kylo laughed at her dignified tone, signed her appointment letter and handed it to her. He had expected her to be absent, and found her unexpected presence puzzling. His suspicions grew because Agnes had never looked at him without disdain before, yet now stood before him polite and eager to serve. Agnes could not help but admire him. His tall, sturdy build and striking blue eyes framed by ebony hair captivated her. His eyes reminded her of a clear beach or spring sky and mesmerized her. Though his expression was cold and rough, even his handwriting impressed Agnes. She looked up at him with sparkling eyes full of admiration, which made Kylo uneasy. As a seasoned warrior, he could not understand her sudden change in behavior. Kylo then announced that he would give her the first mission. Looking down at her, he explained that the A-15 area on the eastern outskirts of the capital was under military control and required patrolling for monsters. He ordered her to go alone. Agnes swallowed nervously, taken aback, as she had hoped to accompany Kylo and considered it a potential date despite the danger. Kylo, mocking her further, expressed doubt about her capabilities, saying she only knew how to put on a dress and look in the mirror. He also made a snide comment about the small pistols she would be issued. Despite his sarcasm, Agnes wasn't offended. She prepared to leave for her first mission, disappointed only that Kylo wouldn't accompany her. She declared with resolve that she would perform well in return. Meanwhile, Jeremy voiced concern about sending Agnes alone to the A-15 area. Kylo didn't respond, aware that the area had been deemed safe after a patrol the day before. Jeremy had been away for several days. Kylo's decision to send Agnes there was more symbolic than practical, meant to temper her arrogance and begin her true induction into the Black Knight's duties. Kylo had no intention of endangering Agnes. As a knight bound by his oath, he chose a location that was intimidating yet safe to discipline her without placing her in real danger. Sirius Melville, en route to report to Raymond, knocked on the White Knight's office door. Raymond greeted him, noting his tardiness. Sirius reported his completed mission but raised concern regarding Agnes. He explained that Kylo had sent her on a solo patrol in Area A-15, which had not yet been fully reviewed. Raymond, though weary of Agnes's antics, acknowledged his duty to protect the royal family. He asked whether she had gone alone. Sirius confirmed and added that she only carried a small pistol, asserting that if she encountered a monster, she'd be dead before she could even aim. Raymond thinks Kylo may have exaggerated minor issues on the front lines to build his reputation. But Kylo always follows the rules and avoids serious trouble. He would not risk angering the Emperor. Raymond wonders if this is part of Kylo's plan to humble the princess. Sirius still worries something might go wrong and fears the princess could be injured. He wants to check on her but must leave for patrol. In the end, Raymond agrees to go instead. As Sirius leaves, he suggests Raymond should scold Kylo. Raymond feels tired of dealing with the princess. He was relieved when she joined the Black Knights, hoping to avoid her tantrums. Yet on her first day he is pulled into more trouble. He questions if this is Kylo's doing or another one of the princess's selfish schemes. Her obsession has become unbearable and he wishes to be free of her. Outside the palace, Agnes arrives on horseback and they meet by chance. Meanwhile, back in Kylo's office, one of his knights named Victor reported on Area A-15. Kylo had actually sent Agnes to A-15. Victor said their tasks for the day were done, but now they were heading to A-15 to investigate. Kylo was surprised and asked if that area hadn't already been cleared. The knight explained that one of their comrades had lost her cat, which caused a commotion that messed up the patrol. Because of that, they couldn't submit their report on time. Realizing this, Kylo regretted sending Agnes there. If anything happened to her, it would spell disaster for him, as the Emperor would not let him go unpunished. Agnes finally reached her destination, a war-torn village. A guard let her through, though it was clear he wasn't too eager to allow it. She figured the Black Knights only showed up here for patrols, so if they were already asking questions, the inspection must have been done. She showed the commander's order, and even though the guard looked unsure, he still let her pass. As she walked, she thought about Kylo. He wouldn't actually try to harm her. Sure, he was rude, sarcastic, and lacked manners, but he wasn't a bad cat. This was probably just one of his usual tricks, and honestly she found it kind of cute. People said the place was terrifying, but thankfully the town had been evacuated so no one was hurt. Looking around, her thoughts drifted to Kylo's struggles during the war, especially the ones tied to Raymond. Despite all Kylo had done on the front lines, Raymond stayed at the back and still got all the praise. Agnes promised herself she'd start giving Kylo the appreciation he deserved. She even thought about pretending to be scared and shedding a few tears just to comfort him. While patrolling, she suddenly heard a rustling noise. Bracing for a monster, she was relieved to find a small black cat. She healed its wound with magic and decided to keep it with her. Soon after, a cold chill washed over her. She turned to see a massive shadow beast with glowing red eyes. It lunged at her. She tried to escape and nearly lost it, but refused to give up. Right before it could strike again, Kylo appeared and cut the creature down. He looked at her and said he was glad he made it in time. Agnes, bloodied but safe, realized he hadn't sent her into danger on purpose. He had come to protect her. He handed her his handkerchief and apologized. Instead of using it, she quietly slipped it into her pocket. Kylo looked surprised. She blushed and pretended to feel lightheaded, hoping it would get his attention. Judging by his expression, she figured some of his men had skipped the inspection, and he must have rushed in to save her. To her, that counted as a win. Just as she was about to suggest checking the rest of the area together, the sound of hooves cut her off. She and Kylo turned to see Raymond riding in on a silver-haired horse. Kylo's face instantly twisted with annoyance. Raymond, examining the monster's corpse, concluded that another mishap had occurred. Though he could have accused Kylo of endangering royalty, he refrained, knowing Agnes would defend Kylo as her protector. Raymond offered Agnes his handkerchief and advised her to clean the blood. She accepted and quickly used it, glaring at Raymond and wishing he hadn't interrupted her moment with Kylo. Observing that she hadn't used his handkerchief, Kylo assumed she found his things distasteful. However, the truth was quite different. Agnes simply didn't want to stain Kylo's handkerchief with her blood and had pocketed it instead. Raymond told Agnes a carriage was ready and she should get in. She went with an angry face and Kylo guessed she was mad because he ruined her moment with Raymond. He didn't want this, but Raymond cut him off. Raymond said he would let it go but warned him not to mess up again. This was the capital, not a battlefield. Kylo wondered who gave him the right to talk like that. He already acted like the princess's husband, and it bothered him. Kylo said fine, he would take the advice, but asked why Raymond was chasing her. Was he her nanny now? Raymond told him to watch his mouth, but Kylo didn't stop. He said Raymond kept rejecting her yet still led her on. Raymond stayed quiet and turned away. Kylo thought he was just pretending to be noble while trying to win the princess for power. In the end, he was no better than the rest. One day Kylo would reveal everything he was hiding. Agnes felt disappointed that Raymond ruined her chance to be alone with Kylo but got into the carriage without a fuss. Inside, she hid her frustration behind a calm face. It was the first time she'd seen Raymond since her arrest. He seemed handsome but wasn't her type. He looked too perfect, but our protagonist liked someone rougher like Kylo. Still, she knew she had to pretend to be in love with Raymond just to stir some emotion in him. She asked why he came. Trying to sound polite, she played the part everyone expected. Raymond paused, then said he came to ask her to avoid causing trouble for the royal family and to act with proper dignity. She stayed quiet, then replied that she understood. If he meant she should stop bothering him and behave, she would. She admitted she had been a burden without meaning to and said she would step aside. Trying to sound like a heartbroken woman moving on, she added there was no need for him to seek her out again. Raymond said he was glad to hear it and trusted she would stay focused on her duties. She stepped out of the carriage while cursing him in her head for ruining her day. Raymond wondered if she really was heartbroken or had just figured out how to get his attention. Either way, he felt free. He told the driver to head to the Crown Prince's palace. There he spoke with Damien about Kylo's hostility toward Agnes. Damien said it wasn't surprising given how Agnes had treated people. It wasn't serious, and their father allowed it. He also said their sister could use a taste of her own medicine. Damien then asked if Agnes really said she'd stop bothering him. Raymond said yes, but wasn't convinced. Damien said she always spoke nonsense, and that was why she would be a future problem for their father. Raymond agreed. Agnes was unstable and unpredictable, but not a real threat. Just another bump in the road. His brother also wanted Agnes married off quickly. He knew the people wouldn't accept a royal marrying outside the empire, so he searched for a match within and chose his trusted friend Raymond Spencer. But now Raymond claimed public opinion of Agnes was poor and keeping her around would damage the royal name. His brother found that insulting. Agnes still loved Raymond, and though she was difficult, he saw no reason to turn on her. He reminded Raymond that Agnes said she wouldn't bother him anymore, and told him not to speak badly of her again. Raymond nodded and walked off, but the matter with him was far from over. Meanwhile, back in the palace, the maids were in an uproar when they saw Agnes return covered in blood. They were concerned for her well-being, bombarding her with questions. Despite being constantly teased by Agnes, they had grown fond of her due to the conveniences she provided. Agnes said she was fine and thanked Lord Grey for protecting her. She didn't mention how close she was to dying to avoid getting Kylo in trouble. The maids saw her bloodied and guessed Kylo had saved her. Still, they doubted it and called it a story to win her over. Kylo was known more for accidents than real battles, and many nobles saw him as reckless. The idea of him saving someone didn't sit right with them. Agnes quietly wept and said she had misunderstood everything. She admitted Kylo had strong principles and truly saved her. When a maid asked if she had returned with Lord Raymond, Agnes calmly told them never to mention his name around her again. The maids were shocked and asked if something had happened. Agnes said she couldn't explain but confessed she was only human and could feel pain too. She said she couldn't take it anymore and asked to rest since she felt unwell covered in blood. The maids stepped back as she lay down with a sly smile, knowing they would spread her words. Soon gossip spread. The maids whispered that the princess who once spoke endlessly about Lord Raymond now banned his name. They guessed something big had happened. Though Raymond had rejected her before, she never seemed this broken. Emma said he would never say something cruel, but Chloe argued that after all Agnes had done for him, it would take something serious to push him away like this. They agreed that Raymond must have crossed a line and decided to let her go for good. That night, word spread fast that Raymond Spencer had verbally hurt Princess Agnes and broken her heart. Some people questioned where the story started, but most believed it anyway. Raymond's cold attitude toward Agnes made it easy to accept. A few defended him and blamed Agnes for being overbearing, but the rumor still made her look like the victim. Agnes had not expected the story to grow so quickly. She only meant to let a small rumor slip to show that Raymond had upset her. She never imagined it would spread this far. Still, it worked in her favor. It made people see her as someone who had been mistreated and maybe even someone ready to move on. The story reached Emperor Alexander, and it made him furious. Even though he had already seen his daughter come back covered in monster blood, this news story hit him harder. The idea that someone from the Spencer family had hurt Agnes stirred something deeper in him. Alexander had long carried a grudge against Duke Spencer. In his youth, the only woman he ever loved, the late Empress, had once loved the Duke. That old wound had never healed, and he hated Raymond just as much. Although Raymond had always been loyal to Crown Prince Damien, the Emperor never wanted him near Agnes. The idea of his daughter ending up with the son of a man he had long despised filled him with anger. Noticing the Emperor's rising blood pressure, the Chamberlain quietly suggested the rumor might be a good sign. If Agnes was finally letting go of Raymond, then something good could come from it. Alexander agreed there was truth in that, but he still couldn't accept that Raymond had hurt his daughter. Even Kylo Grey heard the rumor. Though he normally ignored palace gossip, this one caught his attention. He felt a strange mix of emotions after learning what people were saying about Raymond and Agnes. Despite his complicated feelings about Agnes, Kylo felt an unexpected sense of concern and curiosity about the situation. After venting his anger on Princess Agnes, Kylo felt a deep-seated animosity towards Raymond Spencer. He viewed Raymond as a hypocrite who hid his vile nature behind a facade of honor and knighthood. Despite his outward appearance, Raymond was someone who would lash out at even the royal family and was unworthy of his heroic reputation. Kylo's resentment towards Raymond was compounded by the news that the princess, known for her fierce and unyielding spirit, had shed tears for the first time in front of her maids. This revelation shocked him. He couldn't believe how harsh Raymond must have been to break Agnes's strong will. Although Kylo initially took some satisfaction in Raymond's exposure, he soon felt uneasy, realizing his own role in provoking Raymond. Kylo considered his own background, recognizing his lack of experience with women and his rough demeanor. He felt the need to apologize to the princess, fearing the repercussions if the Emperor learned of his involvement. Despite his disdain for groveling, Kylo resolved to seek Agnes's forgiveness to secure his position within the Imperial Order of Knights. Agnes, meanwhile, had been cloistered in her room, focusing on spreading the rumor and contemplating her next move. Despite her confinement, she knew she had to continue her strategy of building a new reputation and appealing to Kylo's sense of duty. She decided to visit Kylo. Wearing a thick gray cloak over her uniform, she knocked on his office door. Upon seeing Agnes, Kylo immediately apologized for his mistake, promising it would never happen again. Agnes, understanding his sincere apology, accepted it but warned him of severe punishment if it happened again. In her thoughts, the punishment she prepared for him was marriage. She asked about her next mission, hoping to join Kylo, but was disappointed to hear she would only be doing training for now. Still, Kylo took her to meet the other members of the Black Knights. As they walked through the corridor, Agnes couldn't help but admire Kylo's perfect build, her mind briefly drifting to how good he looked. They arrived at the Black Knight's office, where Agnes met two members, Victor Craven and Anna Montress. Victor was large and intimidating, while Anna was small, shy, and had striking red eyes. Agnes wanted to get along with them, so she told them to treat her as an equal while she wore the uniform. Kylo mentioned that two other members were away on a mission, but together they made the unit complete. Anna recognized Agnes as the one who had saved her black cat Coco in Area A-15. Agnes used the moment to show Kylo a softer side of herself. She also took note of the powerful and unique weapons each member carried. Victor proudly displayed his massive weapon, while Anna showed her terrifying chainsaw-like weapon. Agnes, although scared by Anna's dreadful expressions while showing her weapons, but decided she needed one of her own. Anna offered to accompany Agnes to the Imperial Palace Weapons Factory to get a weapon crafted. Agnes visited the Imperial Weapons Factory and remembered that the Empire's magic tech began with a violet ore found in its land. The first Emperor used his magic to turn it into mana stones and sealed the demons underground. When demons returned centuries later, the people began forging weapons with mana stones, hoping a royal with the Emperor's power would appear again. There, our girl learned about matching the wavelength of magic stones to enhance weapon effectiveness. Agnes struggled to find the right stone until the blacksmith brought out a special purple magic stone stored in an underground warehouse, typically used for creating bodyguard weapons for the Emperor's knights. This stone perfectly matched Agnes, making her hand heat up upon contact. Finally, Agnes requested a unique weapon, a combination of a walking stick and a sniper rifle, plated with silver. The blacksmith promised to complete it in about 3 days. Agnes left the blacksmith's shop feeling excited, realizing she was truly living in a fantasy world. In the following days, Agnes hoped to see Kylo again, but found him too busy with his duties. Despite her initial disappointment, she adjusted to life within the Black Knights. She bonded with Anna, who turned out to be kind-hearted despite her gloomy demeanor. Agnes also found Victor Craven intimidating but not unfriendly. Agnes received her custom weapon, a thin silver staff embedded with a purple magic stone. Eager to use it, she hoped for a mission alongside Kylo. However, Kylo remained elusive, occupied with his responsibilities. Agnes consoled herself by becoming closer to Anna, who shared her passion for monster anatomy. One day, while walking through the Knights building, Agnes stumbled on the White Knights lounge. Feeling bored and curious, she sneaked into the flower garden to eavesdrop, using her high status to her advantage. She found a good spot and saw Hugo Rodden, Saint Liliana, Diana Lennox, and Sirius Melville. She matched their faces with the novel's characters and noted how pretty Saint Liliana looked. The White Knights were talking about the rumor that Emperor Alexander changed Agnes's affiliation to support the remaining knights. Saint Liliana thought it was unfair and couldn't understand why. Hugo tried to stay respectful, but the saint kept pushing, showing she didn't know noble protocols. They then brought up Raymond Spencer's verbal abuse toward Agnes. Saint Liliana found it ironic that the princess who often hurt others cried when she got hurt. Diana Lennox tried to stop the gossip, but it only made things worse. The saint started crying and accused Diana of looking down on her for being a commoner. Agnes found the saint's behavior interesting and wondered why she seemed so different from her portrayal in the novel. She enjoyed watching the saint's clever but dramatic personality. Hugo defended the saint, which caused tension with Sirius and Diana. The saint then threatened to report their behavior to the leader. Just then Hazel Devon, the original female lead, arrived and caught Agnes's eye. Her soft brown hair and green eyes gave off the image of a perfect first love, and Agnes was immediately captivated. While watching the group, Agnes was surprised to see that the angelic saintess was actually a white lotus in disguise. She wondered why the author had never revealed that twist. Then the saintess suddenly claimed everyone hated her for being a commoner. Diana snapped back in confusion, and Hugo stepped in, warning her not to raise her voice. Amused by the chaos, Agnes stayed hidden. Then she heard a familiar voice. Hazel Devon, the novel's female lead, had just returned from a mission and said it went well since she was with the commander. When asked about Lord Raymond Spencer, Hazel said he was likely resting in his quarters. They then brought up the rumor that he insulted Princess Agnes. Lililia dismissed it as gossip, but Hazel said coldly that the commander hated clingy women as much as demons. Her words made the room go quiet, while Agnes silently enjoyed the drama. After everyone left, Hugo walked Lililia out, clearly smitten. Agnes noticed and thought he had fallen just like her. As she turned to leave, her foot made a sound. Sirius heard it and pointed his sword at her. Agnes froze, then told him to put it away. He quickly apologized and asked if she had heard everything. Agnes stayed quiet and asked him not to tell anyone. She said she didn't want more trouble. Sirius was confused by her calm tone and asked if the rumors were true. He repeated what people said about Lord Spencer calling her trash. Agnes was stunned. She had only wanted to look a little heartbroken, not cause a wildfire. When Sirius asked again, she told him she didn't want to talk about that day. That's when he realized she was still trying to protect Raymond. They chose to keep the incident to themselves and left while Sirius stood stunned that the commander might have really done that. Back at the Black Knight's office, Kylo asked if his 2 members had been out training. They said they were helping the new member test her weapon. He asked if they were with the princess, then quickly corrected himself and said Dame Agnes, and asked if she made them play any strange games. Anna said no, she was kind and even gentle with Coco. Kylo found it strange that someone known for being harsh could be so nice to animals. Anna added that Agnes listened to all her stories about Coco and other beasts. Kylo asked if maybe they misunderstood her, but then realized something. These 2 had less influence than him and didn't care about palace gossip. They might be the only ones who saw her without bias. He thought about how Agnes had been lately and felt she had completely changed. One of the members asked why he suddenly left the office. Kylo shrugged it off but thought he would find out her true nature soon whether he wanted to or not. Then he said to let Dame Saint know she had a new mission and that he and all Black Knights in the capital would be joining her. Sirius recalled how he used to visit the palace as the Crown Prince's playmate. Back then, Princess Agnes was arrogant and threw tantrums when things didn't go her way. But over time, he realized she was just a lonely child seeking attention. She lost her mother and nanny early. Her father was always absent, and her brother was cold. Because of her status, she couldn't form normal friendships and was always isolated. Those who had known her long enough never truly hated her because they saw her loneliness. He believed the commander knew all this yet still lashed out at her. Then it hit him. The day of her first mission was the same day he pushed the commander to go find her. If he hadn't done that, they wouldn't have met, and she wouldn't have suffered. He blamed himself for it, and regretted everything. Agnes had dinner with Emperor Alexander, who seemed pleased with her. He had heard she was training hard with the Black Knights and felt putting her under Kylo was the right choice. He wondered when his little girl had grown up so well. Agnes knew he was getting the wrong idea but didn't explain. Instead, she stood and said she needed to leave early for tomorrow's mission, looking excited as she left. She was excited about an upcoming mission where she would be accompanying Kylo. She assured her father that she was fine, and the Emperor, suspecting that Kylo's rough training methods might have matured his daughter, felt both proud and worried. Agnes was full of energy. After waiting so long, her mission had finally arrived. She had survived on the scent of Kylo's handkerchief, and now she was off on a 4-day 3-night trip with his squad. She was so excited she had barely slept but didn't feel tired at all. That morning she got up early and smiled to herself. She had even hidden a mini camera in her cloak just for this moment. She glanced at the white knights gathering near a supply wagon and wondered if they were also heading out. She recalled that they were assigned to the closest region, while the Black Knights always got the farthest. She frowned seeing the amount of luggage and thought it looked like they were moving house. She then remembered how during the war the Black Knights were pushed to the front like cannon fodder. Even now they were sent to the most remote regions. She knew Raymond was the one giving these missions. Thinking about it, she didn't feel bad about the awful rumors going around about him. As she walked, she suddenly saw Raymond. She stared at him with a certain look that made him pause. She wondered why he looked at her like that but turned away without caring. Raymond then addressed the group and explained they would head to Region SP3, which was hit the hardest in the war. Their goal was to support shelter residents and inspect a village under reconstruction. Vision soldiers would join them due to the distance. He asked if everyone was ready. Agnes responded with excitement. Tyrone glanced at her glowing face and wondered if she thought this was some picnic. He told her the mission would be rough and demonic beasts could show up again. Agnes calmly replied that she would stay close to the commander for safety. Kylo started sweating. He figured this was her way of warning him to protect her. She even added that her father would not forgive him if she got hurt. Kylo considered if he had misjudged her but then decided she really was as tricky as he thought. She mounted her horse and asked why he was still standing there since he was the one who told them to move. Kylo let out a deep sigh. He knew this was not a mission. This was babysitting. At night they camped in the forest. Kylo told them he would scout the area and asked everyone to rest. They followed his lead. The princess sat there wondering if she was just supposed to do nothing. It was her first time camping and she had no idea what to do. She looked at a knight and asked if the things nearby were edible. The knight looked confused and didn't understand what she meant. Since it was her first time, she thought she should try making something special. When Kylo came back, he was shocked to see lobsters being served instead of the usual beef jerky and soup. He noticed how the once grumbling soldiers were now getting along with the princess. He assumed the princess had asked for better food and the soldiers caught lobsters for her. It felt like she still thought this was a picnic, and he was surprised at the soldiers' sudden energy. But then he heard them say they only got to eat this kind of food in fancy restaurants. They looked happy and even happier when they looked at the princess. Kylo sat with them and they welcomed him into their cheerful group. After a full day of marching, the Black Knight Order reached a shelter near Region SP3. Rumors spread that a Black Knight and the Royal Highness were arriving. People talked about the Saintess being assigned a role, possibly because no one in the village had been demonized. Some wondered if she would treat them like servants. Soon the knights arrived and the villagers came out to welcome them. The children were amazed by the Saintess and said they had never seen anyone that beautiful. They argued that the princess had black hair. So who was the one on the horse? Agnes stepped down and asked the child to show her where the sick people were. They led her to a building and she thanked them. There were 2 diseases caused by demons. The first was demonization, which turns skin black and drives people mad until they attack like monsters. Only the saintess could purify it. The second disease did not affect the mind but slowly rotted the body. It could not be healed by purification. Only high-level light mages could survive it. Agnes was the youngest light mage alive and saw this as a chance to help and improve Kylo's image. Anna informed Kylo of a problem. The village had no clean water. For 2 days the supply had been polluted with demonic beast blood. She believed the river was the cause. Kylo was surprised and asked about other sources, but Anna said all of them were the same. He realized they used to have a river, so he hadn't brought clean water. He thought of Agnes. Her power could help, but she had never used it for others. He doubted she would help easily. He asked where she was. A soldier said she had entered a building. A cold feeling hit him. He could not take his eyes off her anymore. She was already making too many mistakes. He ran to the building, fearing she had done something to the sick. If anything went wrong, the emperor would blame him. As he got closer, he heard sounds inside. It almost sounded like crying. He feared what mess she had caused this time. But when he opened the door, he froze. The sick people were healed and she was casting spells on the rest. One by one they looked better and began thanking her. She turned with a bright smile and asked why he was there. Kylo heard the villagers praising Agnes and thanking the Imperial family for sending her. Agnes tried to remain humble by calling herself just a knight and tried to give all the credit to Kylo. He looked on, still confused if this was really the same princess he had known. The villagers started calling the 2 of them heroes. When Agnes asked if he needed anything, Kylo explained that something had happened to the village river. Their supply of drinking water was contaminated. He asked if she could purify it, although he figured she must be exhausted after using such powerful healing magic. Agnes held her head and said she felt a bit dizzy. She used the chance to rest her head on him, saying she could purify the water as long as she had his support on the way. Kylo sighed, realizing this meant carrying her all the way to the river. In the end, he gently lifted her into his arms. His heart raced, and he couldn't believe this was actually happening. At the river, the situation was worse than expected. The water was dark and filled with filth. The villagers stood nearby, helpless. Kylo arrived still carrying Agnes. He looked down and thought that since she stayed silent in his arms all the way here, she might be in worse shape than he thought. Still, she seemed determined to help. She gripped his clothes tightly, and Kylo joked to himself that he wouldn't turn to stone from this. Meanwhile, Agnes quietly enjoyed holding on to him for as long as possible. He asked her again if she was in any condition to purify the river. Agnes looked at the water and said it would be too much to cleanse it all at once. For now, she planned to purify only the amount they needed and handle the rest later. She asked for as many barrels as possible. The villagers brought over barrels filled with red, polluted water. Agnes reached out and activated her magic. The water turned clear in an instant. Kylo immediately ordered that the purified water be taken back and distributed among the villagers. He admitted to himself that he hadn't been sure she could do it, but this confirmed her power. Noticing she looked unwell again, he asked if she was feeling dizzy. She replied that she might need to return the same way they came. Secretly, she was happy to get another excuse to hold on to Kylo. But a moment later, she actually lost consciousness and collapsed. Kylo quickly instructed the others to take her for treatment. While drifting in and out of awareness, Agnes thought back to her childhood. People used to whisper that her mother had cheated and run off, while her father was known for drinking and causing trouble. Everyone pitied her but avoided her at the same time. She had always felt like an outsider and never got used to the distance people kept from her. Now she thought of Kylo. He had been alone too, fighting his own battles. Being with him made her feel less lonely. For someone like him, she was willing to give everything. As she faded deeper, she wondered if she had truly passed out. She had been so happy near him that she hadn't noticed how weak she felt. When she finally opened her eyes, she wondered how long she had been unconscious. Kylo asked if she was alright. She looked at him quietly and wondered if he had stayed by her side the whole time. But then Kylo turned away and said there was nothing to worry about, that she had only fainted from exhaustion. He told her to rest and come out when ready, since they would head to the restricted area afterward. She was a little disappointed but agreed. She also felt that Kylo seemed colder than before. Maybe it was just her imagination. Still, she considered it kind of him to check in as soon as she woke up. That night, Kylo came to see her again. She was sweating in her sleep and mumbling something. He wondered if she was having a bad dream and whether he should wake her. As he reached out to her, he heard her call his name. He froze. His heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help but blush, wondering why she would say his name in her sleep. The next day, people start to care about Agnes's health. After working so hard for the village, the White Knights were already gossiping. One of them asked if she was alright. Agnes smiled and said she was fine, surprised at how people changed just because she purified some water. Kylo walked up and said she looked much better. She thanked him, saying she felt fine. Kylo noticed her cheerful mood but continued with his orders. While marching, he explained the soldiers would guard the shelter and the village while the Black Knights scouted the area so the villagers could return home. He split the teams and glanced at his two elite warriors and paused for a moment, and then said Dame Montrose and Sir Craven would be together. Then said that shocked Agnes that he would be pairing up with Agnes. When he asked if she was ready, she smiled and asked if he would come with her. Then she got on her horse. The horse wasn't calm. Kylo said it wasn't a war horse and might be unsafe, so she should ride with him. She immediately agreed, got off, and joined him. Even the horse looked shocked. She grabbed Kylo tightly and quietly joked about leaving her poor horse for a date. After riding a while, they stopped. Kylo said they'd scout from there since demonic beasts might hide in the forest. Agnes asked what would happen if something attacked the horse. Kylo said it was trained and could escape if needed. He reached out to help her down. She took his hand, wondering if he was always this kind. Kylo noticed her smile and sighed. He felt like he was stuck babysitting again, and thought Rimin should be the one handling her. Earlier, he was confused when she said his name in her sleep, but now he thought maybe she had a nightmare and saw him as the villain. Just then, there was a click. Agnes said she might have stepped on something. Kylo told her not to move, but she did anyway. A trap activated and they both fell into a hidden pit. Kylo explained it was a demonic trap that teleported people into a closed space for a short time. Agnes groaned, thinking her silly daydreams had gotten her into this. She asked how long they'd be stuck. Kylo said around 30 minutes and that no beast could get in. Agnes quietly smiled to herself, thinking she was alone with Kylo again. She told him she felt dizzy and asked if she could lean on him. She said she hadn't fully recovered from using so much magic. Kylo couldn't say no since it was partly his fault. She leaned into him and closed her eyes while he sat there, thinking how awkward it was and that he couldn't stop her now.